Before diving into this incredible story, consider subscribing to the channel and hitting the bell. Every story here has something to say, and you won't want to miss a single one. New York, Manhattan. Night was falling slowly on the neon-lit streets. In a chic restaurant in the city, Emily Johnson, a 25-year-old black waitress, was bustling about diligently. Always smiling, always professional, she knew the names of almost every regular customer and knew how to make every service pleasant. That evening, as she was clearing a table by the window, she saw a hungry, freezing man sitting on the sidewalk. Without hesitation, she slipped him a hot sandwich and a steaming cup of coffee. For her, it was a natural gesture, a way of giving a little warmth to someone who needed it. But this gesture of kindness did not escape the attention of Richard Whitman, the restaurant's owner. An arrogant billionaire known for his tyrannical temper, he entered the room and saw Emily handing the food to the homeless man. "What are you doing?" he yelled in front of all the employees and customers. "Are you wasting our food for a bum?" Emily looked down, trying to stay calm. I just wanted." "No excuses," he snapped. "You're fired. Leave this restaurant immediately." Humiliated, Emily gathered her things. The eyes of customers and colleagues fell upon her, some sympathetic, others curious. With a heavy heart, she walked through the restaurant doors for the last time, into the bitter cold of the New York night. What Richard didn't know was that this moment, meant to humiliate Emily, would mark the beginning of a transformation that would turn his own life upside down, and hers. The next morning, Emily woke up in her small Brooklyn apartment, her heart still heavy with the shame she'd suffered the day before. The scene of her humiliation at the restaurant played over and over in her head, the mocking laughter, Richard Whitman's stern stare, the customers' incomprehension, everything seemed unreal. But what was about to happen was beyond her imagination. One of her former colleagues, Tim, had filmed the incident on his phone and posted the video on social media. Within hours, the video went viral. Thousands of views, shocked comments, messages of support. Emily hadn't expected such an impact. "I'm so sorry it affected you like that," one internet user wrote to her. "You're amazing to stay dignified in front of a man like him," added another. Despite the overwhelming support, Emily had to face reality. She was out of a job, her bills were piling up, and her future seemed uncertain. But she refused to give up. She remembered the values her parents had instilled in her: dignity, courage, and generosity. Even though the world sometimes seemed unfair, she resolved to continue doing what she did best, helping others and holding her head high. It was the beginning of a new chapter for Emily. She knew that her kindness, though punished by some, would eventually find its rightful place. And what no one yet imagined was that 6 months later, the wheel would turn dramatically. Emily had never imagined that losing her job at a fancy restaurant would lead her to such a humble life. She found a small position at a Brooklyn cafe, far from the bright lights of Manhattan. The pay was low, but the atmosphere was welcoming, and for the first time in weeks, Emily felt a sense of calm. Every morning, she walked a few blocks away to distribute meals to the homeless, a simple but meaningful gesture. She realized that her dignity and goodness did not depend on the approval of the rich or powerful. Even in the face of injustice, she chose to remain true to her values. One evening, while serving coffee to a regular customer, she heard a quiet laugh behind her. "Emily Johnson, is that you?" She turned around and saw Marcus Lewis, a black entrepreneur in his 30s, elegantly dressed but with a warm, attentive gaze. Marcus was known for his restaurant projects and social initiatives in the city. Impressed by Emily's viral videos and her commitment to the homeless, he offered her a life-changing opportunity to join his team to develop a community restaurant project. Emily felt her heart race. This was an unexpected, almost unbelievable stroke of luck. A new step was beginning, away from shame and anger, towards something bigger and more meaningful. Emily couldn't believe her eyes when she first walked into Marcus Lewis's office. The space was bright and modern, with touches of wood and greenery, a stark contrast to the noisy, cramped kitchens she'd worked in. Marcus greeted her with a warm, genuine smile. "Emily, I saw what you did for the homeless. And I saw what that man did to you. You don't deserve this. She felt a mixture of gratitude and nervousness. Thank you, Mr. Lewis. I just want to help others, do something good. Marcus nodded. Exactly. And that's why I want you to lead a pilot project at one of our new community restaurants. You know the city, you know how to interact with people. I want you to put your heart into this project. For Emily, it was more than a job, it was a chance to turn her pain into strength, to transform her humiliation into opportunity. She accepted immediately, determined to prove that she could succeed despite what she had been through. As the weeks passed, she discovered that working with Marcus was inspiring. He valued her ideas, encouraged her to take initiative, and saw her not just as an employee, but as a partner. For the first time in months, Emily felt that her life had real meaning, and that her act of kindness, punished by the arrogance of a wealthy man, could finally bear fruit. As the weeks passed, Emily quickly established herself as a driving force behind Marcus's project. Her energy, generosity, and attention to detail made each community restaurant a success. Customers came not only for the food, but for the warm, welcoming atmosphere Emily created. She had learned to turn her pain into motivation. Every smile from a homeless person who left feeling satisfied, every thank you from a parent whose children were fed, strengthened her resolve. Emily was no longer just a waitress, she was becoming a symbol of resilience and kindness in the city. One morning, as she was checking the kitchen inventory, Marcus approached. Emily, I have some exciting news. Thanks to your work, several investors want to finance the opening of 3 new community restaurants in Brooklyn and Queens. And they want you to lead these projects. Emily felt a surge of pride and excitement. 6 months earlier, she had been humiliated and unemployed. Now, she was becoming a respected leader, recognized for her skills and humanity. What seemed like an unfair punishment from fate had turned into a springboard. Emily realized that true power lay not in wealth or arrogance, but in the courage to stay true to one's values and turn adversity into opportunity. 6 months after Emily's humiliation, Richard Whitman was preparing the opening of his new luxury restaurant in Manhattan. Ever arrogant, he had no idea that the young waitress he had humiliated had not only survived his scorn, but was now shining in a major project. The evening of the opening was lavish, sparkling chandeliers, impeccably set tables, and hand-picked guests. Richard strutted among the guests, convinced that the evening would be a personal triumph. Unbeknownst to him, Emily and Marcus were there, invited by mutual investors to observe market trends and potentially forge new partnerships. Emily entered the restaurant with quiet elegance, dressed in a simple yet refined outfit. Her gaze met Richard's. For a moment, time seemed to stand still. Richard frowned as he recognized her. Emily Johnson, but... he began, surprised and disconcerted. Emily, calm and confident, smiled slightly. She didn't need to raise her voice to assert her presence. The guests, intrigued, followed her gaze and understood that something special was happening. Marcus placed a friendly hand on her shoulder, as if to remind her that she was no longer alone facing Richard. This moment heralded an inevitable public confrontation. Emily was no longer the vulnerable young waitress Richard had humiliated, she had become a strong, respected woman capable of transforming past injustice into power and influence. The restaurant was filled with elegant guests, journalists, and a few influential investors. Richard Whitman, still in shock at seeing Emily, tried to compose himself, but his arrogance was beginning to waver. Emily stepped forward to the center of the room, her clear, confident voice echoing through the space. 6 months ago, I was humiliated in this restaurant, in front of your eyes, by someone who thought my kindness was worthless. I had simply given a sandwich and a coffee to a homeless man. This act of compassion cost me my job, my honor, and plunged me into uncertainty. There was a silence. The guests froze, hanging on his every word. But today, I'm here to show you that integrity, generosity, and resilience are more powerful than arrogance and cruelty. Through my work with Marcus Lewis, I've led a community restaurant project that helps hundreds of people every week. And I'll keep doing that, no matter who tries to stop me or put me down. Richard grew livid. Murmurs rippled through the room. Eyes, once indifferent, turned judgmentally toward him. The guests realized that the arrogant owner had been confronted with his own injustice. Emily, calmly and with dignity, concludes, "It's not revenge I'm seeking. It's just the truth. Kindness always triumphs, even against those who believe they can punish it." The audience erupted in applause. Richard tried to protest, but no one listened. That evening, Emily had not only reclaimed her dignity, but she had also demonstrated that courage and generosity were more powerful forces than wealth or arrogance. After the public confrontation, Richard Whitman realized that his reputation had been seriously damaged. Social media was full of videos and comments recounting the humiliation he had inflicted on Emily. Journalists began covering the story as an example of the arrogance of the wealthy in the face of humanity. But the worst part was the impact on his business. Several influential investors and customers, who had previously been loyal, began to turn away from his restaurant. Marcus and Emily, for their part, revealed that several strategic partnerships had been signed with powerful investors, guaranteeing the success and expansion of community restaurants. Richard tried to respond, sending out invitations and promotional offers, but no one really paid attention. Customers were attracted by Emily's new energy and message, compassion, dignity, and social commitment. One evening, Richard attended another opening party Marcus and Emily had thrown for a new restaurant in Brooklyn. The place was packed, the media was present, and Emily beamed, greeting guests with a genuine smile. Richard, meanwhile, stood in a corner, invisible to everyone, unable to match the charisma and strength he had once tried to crush. He finally understood that true power lay not in money or power, but in the ability to inspire, help, and transform the lives of others. And he had learned this lesson too late. A few months after Richard Whitman's fall, Emily had become much more than a former waitress. She was now a public figure admired for her resilience and generosity. The media dubbed her the waitress who turned shame into success. The community restaurants she ran in partnership with Marcus were thriving. Each establishment offered affordable meals while also supporting the city's homeless and disadvantaged families. Emily was actively involved in everything from food drives to educational programs for troubled youth. She had earned the respect and admiration of her community, as well as of investors and entrepreneurs who sought to collaborate with her. Her name had become synonymous with courage and kindness, proving that an act of compassion, even misjudged by some, could change the course of a life. One morning, while delivering meals with a warm smile, Emily realized the magnitude of her transformation. She had begun this journey broken and humiliated, and now she was inspiring hundreds of people to follow her example. Her success was not just financial, but profoundly human. She had found her mission and her impact in the world. And this quiet triumph, built with patience, determination and heart, had also taught a lesson to those who had tried to crush it. Kindness and dignity have a power that neither money nor arrogance can break. As her success grew, Emily realized she could do even more. Alongside Marcus, she launched a series of programs to train and hire people from disadvantaged backgrounds. She wanted to give everyone a chance she hadn't had when she was humiliated. The media now followed her every move. Emily used this visibility to send a clear message: dignity and compassion are never weaknesses. In interviews, she told her story, explaining how a simple act of generosity had set off a chain of events that transformed her. Richard Whitman, now marginalized in his community, saw his restaurants lose customers to projects supported by Emily and Marcus. His attempt to maintain his image as a powerful billionaire had failed, replaced by the admiration and respect Emily inspired. In her public speeches, Emily emphasized that her success was not a personal revenge, but proof that acts of kindness and resilience are always recognized. She inspired many people to never give in to humiliation or cruelty, and to turn their challenges into strength and opportunity. The message was simple but powerful: even in the face of the worst injustices, courage, kindness and perseverance are the keys to true triumph. 6 months after the humiliation that had marked the beginning of her journey, Emily Johnson was no longer the vulnerable young waitress Richard Whitman had tried to crush. She had become a respected leader, an accomplished entrepreneur, and, above all, a living symbol of resilience and generosity. Her community restaurants had changed the lives of hundreds of people, the homeless were fed, families were supported, young people were trained, and employees from disadvantaged backgrounds were employed. Emily had found her mission, to use her skills and her voice to create a real and lasting impact in her city. One morning, walking the streets of Brooklyn, she caught the grateful gaze of a formerly homeless man she had helped. That simple smile reminded her that her strength came not from her financial success, but from her ability to transform pain and injustice into kindness and opportunity for others. Richard Whitman, meanwhile, had become an example of what happens when arrogance and cruelty meet perseverance and kindness. His slow but inexorable fall showed that true power lay not in wealth or prestige, but in the positive impact one has on the world. Emily had learned that dignity is never lost, even in the face of the most cruel humiliations. And so, from this ordeal, she had built not only her success, but also a legacy of compassion and courage that would continue to inspire generations. Yesterday's humiliated waitress had become the woman changing the world today. And that power, neither Richard nor anyone else could ever take away from her.